Welcome to State of the State. We're here today to talk about youth mental health and an exciting effort to promote lifelong mental wellness by instilling 8 key foundational skills in young children beginning at birth. This effort is called the Greatest 8. I'm Susan Orban. I'm coordinator of the Washington County Coalition for Children, a regional child advocacy organization in southern Rhode Island. And I'm joined tonight by Dr. Ellen Flannery Schroeder, professor of psychology at the University of Rhode Island and director of their clinical psychology program. Dr. Flannery Schroeder received her PhD in psychology at Temple University and has dedicated her career to the prevention and treatment of childhood anxiety. Welcome, Dr. Flannery Schroeder.
Thank you, Susan. I'm thrilled to be here.
That's great. And we're here tonight to share information about the Greatest 8, which is a collaborative effort of the Washington County Coalition for Children, the University of Rhode Island, and Brown University. And in full disclosure, Dr. Flannery and Schroeder and I are part of the team that helped develop and create the Greatest 8. So why create something like the Greatest 8 in the first place, Dr. Flannery Schroeder?
Sure. We know that even before the pandemic, children's mental health was at risk. We knew that over the last decade, anxiety, depression, suicidality was trending upwards. It was all going in the wrong direction, and that was pre-pandemic. Then the pandemic hit. And with the pandemic came social isolation, educational disruptions, normal routines disrupted, and along with that created greater stress. So students removed from school, they're at home, young children are now wearing masks, so making it sort of more difficult to see mouths. And so there is a great concern for sort of the future of their mental health. I don't think we've begun to see the impact of the pandemic, but I don't think we've seen the last of it. And I think we're going to continue to see it as things roll out. So the concern has sort of reached a bit of a crescendo, particularly with the American Academy of Pediatrics declaring a national emergency for children and adolescent mental health. And so we have to do something. We have an obligation. Things were bad, the pandemic hit, they got worse. And so really we have launched this initiative in part to sort of stem the tide of these child and adolescent behavioral health problems.
So where did the idea come from for the Greatest 8?
So in the mid-1980s, there was some research that suggested that if you want to create positive child health and behavioral health outcomes, you probably shouldn't focus on the children themselves. So if we want sort of kids to learn particular skills and develop good mental health and wellness, to rely on young children might not be the best way to go. And so this research really suggested that the best way to create those positive child outcomes was to use the parents as sort of levers of change. And so that was really sort of the idea that we ran with here, that we could provide information to parents and caregivers and all those who interact with children to sort of help to build some basic foundational skills to promote good mental health in the long term. And so to come up with sort of these 8 skills, what we did was gathered a team of really bright and ambitious graduate students and a few clinical psychologists and a developmental pediatrician and you, Susan, and we really scoured the research to see what are the particular skills that are associated with these positive mental health outcomes, or what protects against mental health disorders.
And these are lifelong.
Absolutely. Yes, we wanted to sort of find out what promotes good mental health for life. And so in doing that and scouring the research, we found that these sort of 8 skills kept coming up over and over and over again. And so those 8 skills then became the greatest 8.
And so I'm sure our audience is really curious about what these 8 skills really are. So can you describe them for us?
Sure. The first skill is communication, the foundation of all interpersonal relationships. And I'm also, as I describe this skill, I'm going to provide a question that maybe parents could ask themselves that might serve a little bit as a screener to be able to assess how well is my child doing in this particular skill. So it might, as you answer these questions that I'm going to sort of pose, it might help you to determine where does your child need a little extra support, or where are they doing really well. So communication skills. How well does your child communicate their thoughts and feelings with others? Are they able to do that very readily and easily, or do they have some difficulty expressing what they're feeling? Skill number 2 is identifying and understanding emotions. So a good question to ask yourself is, can my child recognize their emotions and the emotions of others around them? And so you can see, just as I'm talking about communication and identifying feelings, that these skills somewhat build on one another, but they're not completely independent. The third skill is balancing emotions. Can my child regulate their emotions? So if they become very distressed, are they able to calm themselves down and manage their own emotions? The fourth skill is self-perceived competence. So is my child able to set a goal for themselves and be able to accomplish that goal? How confident are they in being able to do something within the world, to sort of act on the world? Number 5 is problem solving. So what does a child do when a problem arises? Are they able to work their way through it to a successful resolution? Another skill is coping and resilience. So can my child bounce back after encountering difficult experiences? So one part of that is the distress that comes with problems, and how well can the child manage their distress? That's coping. And then the resilience part is, can they bounce back? Can they bounce back better following some kind of negative or stressful event? The 7th skill is conflict management and resolution. So I like to think of this a little bit as problem solving with people, because conflicts often, but not always, happen interpersonally. And so we want children to be able to successfully resolve problems that they have with their peers or with others around them. And then the last skill is diversity, awareness, and respect. A good sort of screening question is, how does your child react to new people and new experiences? Are they frightening, or are they curious and excited to learn about new things?
Wow, well, these skills seem so commonsensible. Do we really need to focus on them?
So, I mean, they are a little bit common sense, perhaps, although it's been said that common sense is not common. But I would say more aptly, where are kids going to learn these skills? So they might learn them in school, and a lot of schools are introducing some social and emotional learning in their curriculums, and that is terrific. But kids don't get to school till around 4 through 6, and so we're missing a real huge window of time where we might be building these important skills. So parents know, to develop things or to teach their child their colors. They know to get necessary immunizations. Like, there's no doubt about it. We've been very clear about teaching parents. These are really important things that you need to do. But we haven't been telling parents these 8 skills are really important skills for kids to develop. It's super important not only for your child to know their colors or their letters, but it's really important for them to be able to recognize facial expressions and be able to label what somebody else is feeling, or to identify what they themselves are feeling. So hopefully the greatest 8 can kind of fill in that gap, so that kids between 0 and 8, they're not waiting till they get to school. They're not dependent upon parents modeling it in their home, which they may or may not, but we're going to hopefully assist parents and others working with kids to really begin to be thoughtful and planful about developing these skills in the early years.
So, how do parents teach these skills to their children?
So, I mean, there's a myriad of ways, but the good news is it doesn't require any money, no special equipment. You just, I think, need to be really thoughtful as a parent. So you need to sort of be knowledgeable about the skill, but then also look for the everyday interactions. I mean, that's where it happens. So you're adding in a little bit, you're doing something slightly differently to sort of help promote and pull out that skill.
So can you give us an example?
Yes, I'll give you an example sort of from my own life. My daughter was very shy when she was young, and I really wanted to encourage her to communicate, you know, loud and proud, to be able to speak to someone that she didn't know. And fortunately for me, she also had an incredible love of dogs. And everywhere we went, you know, she wanted to pet any dog she saw. And initially, I would be doing the talking for her. Like, can my daughter pet your dog? And then it sort of occurred to me that if I want to really build this communication skill in my daughter, and I had the sort of good fortune of her really wanting to pet the dog, I could say, you can pet the dog, but you're going to have to ask. And maybe she couldn't do that, you know, all together, so maybe I would get the dog owner's attention and then sort of help her initially to communicate what she wanted until, you know, after months, weeks, whatever, she was then able to ask herself. So, you know, we were just naturally going to run across that dog, but it's seeing the opportunity to build a skill and taking advantage of it.
So you talked about parents learning these skills. What did you create to allow parents to be able to find information about these skills? Where can parents learn more about the Greatest 8?
So parents can go to our website, which is thegreatest8.org. That's the number 8, so thegreatest8.org. And you know, when we were gathering up, you know, we did lots of research, we came up with the 8 skills, then we had to be really thoughtful about how do parents want to access this information? What's the best way? And it certainly seemed that the website was a good place to start.
Parents are just so super busy these days.
Exactly.
And attending a parenting class or having the time to read a lengthy book, it's just not going to happen.
Exactly. So we took the time to really be thoughtful about how we were going to craft the website. We wanted to be sure that the information was easy to consume, very practical, so parents could read it and immediately have suggestions that they could implement that night. But we also knew that not everybody has the time. You know, parents are tired, you know, they're exhausted. And when the kids go to bed, maybe the last thing that they're going to do is open up, you know, a website. So we want to be sure that we were providing some information in different routes. So we have a parent blog on the website. We also have podcasts so that parents could download those and listen to those in the car. And we also have a text messaging service.
So let's talk more about this text messaging service.
All right. So again,
and why did you develop it?
So in line with trying to put information in parents' hands, quite literally, the text messages do that. So the text message comes to the phone, which is in the parent's hand. We were really trying to make this information highly accessible. And we do know that 80% of the adults in the United States have the ability to send and receive texts. So that's lots of parents we were going to be able to, you know, reach with texts. And we also know that 90% of all texts are read within 2 minutes. So we wanted to, we saw this as a really easy route for parents. They didn't have to stay up late. They didn't have to do anything differently. The text was going to come to them. And then I think also, I mentioned before, there's no like necessary equipment or anything you have to buy for the greatest date, but you do have to be thoughtful. And I think one of the real benefits of the text messaging service is that these texts have parents stop, read a suggestion, an idea, a recommendation, an activity that they might do with their child, and it causes them to be thoughtful. Like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that before. Yes, they serve as a tremendous reminder. And we do know that other texting services like Text for Baby, which is a texting service that was really supporting maternal and child health in the first year, was very successful. And so it stands to reason that if it worked there, it can work here.
So how does the Greatest 8 text messaging service work?
So people who subscribe will get a weekly text, so not too many, not too annoying, just the right amount. I receive them myself. I have to say it really seems spot on, the right frequency for a text. And all of the texts are age matched to the age of the subscriber's child. So when you sign up, you indicate your child's birthday, and then the texts that come are specifically designed to be developmentally appropriate to your child's age. And you can sign up for more than one child and get multiple ages. And then all of the texts also link back to the website. So if you want more information, it's very convenient and handy. You can just tap the link and it refers you back to the website.
That's terrific. So how many subscribers do you currently have?
So currently, we are excited to say we already have 500, but we're working to grow it even more. It's super exciting to see that number rise. It's gotten terrific feedback so far.
That's wonderful. So what does a typical text look like?
I have one here for you that I can read to you so you can get a sense of
it.
I copied one down. Listen closely. So the text comes and there's a suggestion, which I'm going to read, and then it's followed by a link to the website. So here's a typical text. Listen closely when your child asks a question. If you don't, they might feel that their thoughts and feelings aren't important. So it's just a reminder, a suggestion. When your child asks you that question and you're super busy, listen in, because it's sending a message to them. How you respond to their question sends an important message.
That's terrific. So is there any charge for these text messages or for the website?
Yeah, that is a great question. We are very committed to having no charge at all. We want this material to be free, accessible to all, and very easily accessible. So there's absolutely no charge, and we are very committed to keeping it that way.
So do you have any feedback from the subscribers about what they think about the service?
We do. We have a little bit of feedback. So far, the reactions have been great. I would say the vast majority of subscribers are saying these texts are really valuable, and I want to learn more. I find in my work with the Greatest 8 that there are really kind of two kinds of parents. Some parents say, this is new information. This is so helpful. And other parents say, well, it wasn't exactly new. I kind of knew this, but it was a great reminder because I wasn't thinking about it. And again, I think that is one of the sort of greatest parts of the Greatest 8 is that reminder to not lose sight, throughout your busy day of the importance of child mental and behavioral health. It's easy to lose sight of, but it's super important. And I think another good sign is that we have very few unsubscriptions or unsubscribers. So people who sign up tend to stay. That's good news.
That's terrific. So again, you can sign up for the text messaging service by simply texting Greatest 8, like it shows here on the sign, to this phone number, 401-297-3020. And as Ellen mentioned before, the sign-up will ask for your child's age, their birth date, in fact, and that's so that these messages can be timed perfectly developmentally with your child's growth.
Exactly. And just to add to that, Susan, we know it can be really scary to provide any kind of information about your child, including your child's birthday, along with your phone number, because obviously we need the phone number as well. So I just want to say that we take confidentiality very seriously, so that people don't have to be afraid. We don't share that information with anyone. That child's birthday and their phone number is used only to send age-matched texts.
Absolutely. And there's no information asked about child's names or your name or any of that. And anyone that subscribes can simply unsubscribe just as easily. So one thing that we get asked about sometimes is about our logo, The Greatest Date. And it's very colorful. And it shows these two silhouettes of children with very colorful brain. Do you mind explaining that, Ellen?
Sure. Can I just tell us a funny story to begin
Sure.
with? Susan, you know this, but the original name for this project was 8 for 80. Which then became 8 for 80 plus. And the idea was this is 8 skills for 80 and more years of lifetime mental health and wellness. But everyone thought it was about older adults. You know, the 80 plus they thought was referring to 80. So the logo really depicts that it's not about older adults, it's about young children. They're facing each other, the 8 skills are between them because they're communicating about the 8 skills, and then they have very colorful brains. And that's really to draw attention to the idea that that's what we're doing here. We're nurturing development. And we're starting at age 0 and working up through age 10 and really focusing on the importance of brain development and the development of these important skills.
Well, it's really through age 9, right? Because the skills
Yes.
go through age 8, up to age 9. So how is The Greatest 8 funded?
So that is a good question. We have been really fortunate to have many organizations fund our project, which enabled us to get this far. So just to name some of those organizations, the Rhode Island Foundation, the Van Buren Charitable Foundation, the University of Rhode Island, Brown University Hassenfeld Institute, and South County Health. And we are just super delighted and grateful for that funding because it got us off the ground and got the project to where it is now. But I will also say that we're still seeking funding because we're not done with our work.
Absolutely not. And we want to keep it accessible to all parents, for sure.
We do.
So what is the vision for the future for The Greatest 8?
So I think the vision is that The Greatest 8 becomes kind of a new norm. I mean, I would love to see all new parents learning about The Greatest 8. As you have a baby, you learn about The Greatest 8, you sign up. I think that's the vision, that it's recommended and used by all new parents. But then there's other places that we want to go. You know, it's not enough to have our text in English. We want it across multiple languages. And we want to develop even more resources. So more podcasts and short, sweet videos and other resources just to sort of expand the reach.
So what's been the most exciting and rewarding piece of your involvement in The Greatest 8? You've certainly dedicated your career to ameliorating mental health problems in young children. What excites you about The Greatest 8?
So I think the most exciting part for me, as someone who has been treating anxiety disorders for many, many years, is the idea that this initiative is reaching kids at age 0 and trying to prevent the development of anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, and all other mental health disorders by starting super young, when the brain is so malleable and ready to make all sorts of connections. That's the time we want to be laying the foundation for these skills so that we don't have to down the road do treatment. We can do prevention from the start.
So we really want the Great Estate to become this new norm for promoting healthy and social emotional development and strengthening positive mental health functioning for our children. I think all parents want the same thing. We want our children to thrive. And this is an easy way to make that happen. And listeners, you can help us too by helping to promote the Great Estate in the children in your lives. And if there's a way in which you work with children to promote the Great Estate in your settings. And so please get in touch with us. We're happy to share promotional materials with you. Please sign up for the text messaging service. Go to our website. We welcome your engagement with the Great Estate. Help us spread the good word among all the parents you know. The Great Estate can also be found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And so please spread the word that way as well. And so with that, we are going to sign out for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us at tonight on State of the State. And we'll see you next time.